Now, for the last 8 years or so, I have trained bankers and managers and accountants in a technical college. And these people have always desired that they should become leaders. And leadership is something that you always find in a classroom, in a place where there are many people. There must be one person who must take initiative to ensure that they lead the rest. And I've realized that those people who take initiative end up becoming more successful than the rest. And even when it comes to job, they easily get jobs much faster than those who are average student in a class. And I'm not talking about being the best student in the class. I'm talking about taking initiative to become of value to other people, and especially among your peers and the people that you every time that you find yourself in a group. Anyway, that aside, today I want to delve into the matter of personal development. I believe that for a person to lead a successful life, there has to be a balance. There are people who end up putting so much emphasis on a certain area and neglecting certain elements of their life that come to haunt them. One of my most prominent mentors states that every man's ignorance is their biggest monster. That is what comes to eat you alive. You know, a monster eats you alive. So, if you really do not want to be eaten alive by this monster of ignorance because you assumed something and you gave your all your effort in a certain area, then listen to me. This is for you. I remember the other day, it is just last week, in fact, when I happened to chauffeur around a pastor, an apostle. His name is Chris, who had come from Uganda. He was giving me a story of his brother, who's a billionaire, who had a friend who is now um, uh, um, gone, and he was a billionaire. He had so much. He lived in a mansion, three-story building. His bedroom was on the highest floor. And when he was telling me this story, um, the point was that this was a man who had acquired so much. He had so much wealth. He had so much influence, but yet he struggled so much with cancer, leukemia, and this leukemia had taken him to India, to the United States, and to other countries where he could seek medical solution, but he could not find, even though they drained his blood and he was transfused with his fresh blood. He did not survive. At the end of it, he disappeared. And the reason why the man of God was telling me this story is because at one of the height of his difficulties, his brother advised him to seek for spiritual intervention, and that is how he ended up inviting Apostle to come and pray for him and with his family. But Apostle had to sit down and with him and explain the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. And when he accepted the gospel, he was born again. He accepted Christ, and for the next 2 weeks before he died, he was at peace with himself. He repented, and yet yes, he died, but he had lived a life. There comes a time. The point is that there comes a time when even money, even influence, even network fails, and for that reason, for as long as you live, there are things that you must not assume. There are things that you must keep in balanced and in check. So today, I want us to look at 6 dimensions that I believe we ought to balance even as we continue to live our life. Number one is the spiritual dimension, what I call the spiritual dimension of the spirit man. It is necessary for us to realize and to recognize that we are not just mere men. We are not just mass of blood and meat and bones. We are way much more than that. As a matter of fact, man does not die. Man only leaves the body. And that is why when I or you leave your body, we have to bury the body, but yourself, you never die. You must go somewhere else. The thing is, you have to choose where you want to end. That is subject for another thing. But the thing is that man is spiritual. You must recognize that you're spiritual, and for that reason, you must be able to know and understand how to develop yourself spiritually. The next dimension is intellectual or mental. Intellectual has one of the aspects of intellectual development is the mental. mental development, we know that today a lot of people are suffering from depression, stress, and other issues related to mental health. And in addition to that, we know that the mindset of a person is what makes them. A man is what he thinks. That is Proverbs chapter 23, verse 7. It says that as a man thinketh, so is he. In fact, many years ago, over 100 years ago, a man called John Allen, or someone like that, wrote a book called As a Man Thinketh. And the book sold millions of copies, and to date it continues to sell, because what a man thinks, he becomes, and he is. And it's therefore important for you to pay attention to your intellectual and mental aspect or dimension of your life. The other one is physical. I know that we don't have a problem with this because many people love food. We love to eat. But here's the problem. There are some people who overeat. There are some people who never do anything to regulate their size or their weight or their body. There are people who eat carelessly. There are people who also eat recklessly. You want to save money at the expense of your good health. There's a proverb or a saying that says that if you don't take your food as your medicine, you'll take your medicine as your food. It's necessary for us to therefore take care of our body, from physical exercises to ensuring that we do not indulge or engage in any extreme circumstances that continues to harm our body. The other dimension, the fourth dimension, is what we call relational. Socially, first of all, even before you relate to others, it is necessary for you to have a relationship with yourself. This is what we call social awareness. There are people who struggle with the basic understanding of whom they are. They do not know their strength, they do not know their weaknesses, they do not understand their value. Their confidence is based on what people say or people think, and we are in an era of social media where people want to display the best of everything. At the end of the day, you live a fake life. You never come to realize who you are. That is, therefore, as a result, you must be able to develop yourself socially. The other dimension, still in the social development, is relationally. How do you relate with other people? You see, for instance, if you have a failed marriage or relationship breaking up, you cannot keep a husband, you cannot keep a wife. This is social problem. It's a relational problem. The way you relate with your employees as a leader, the way you relate with your employer as an employee, the way you relate with your colleagues, these things matters. And as a matter of fact, if you do not have a balanced life in areas about relationships, you can be sure that success will not be found any near you, on your gates. Let us go to the next one. That is financial. Trust you me. I'm this person who developed myself so well physically, so well socially, so well intellectually, so well spiritually, but I somehow assumed the financial aspect. There are times when you and you have seen this among the preachers and the people who are so prayerful. They pray all day long, they worship, and they believe that they will be well. God will meet all their financial needs. Very true. God will meet all your financial needs. But that is only going to happen if you are well informed about financials. Remember this, that God, there are two dimensions of two aspects about God, and that is the life of God and the principles of God. For you to become wealthy, you have to understand the principles of creating wealth. These principles are not demonic. I understand that there are some demons that have taken captive of the situations. They have manipulated men of God, and they have ended up using the same principles that were set by God to acquire wealth, but neglecting other aspects of their life, like spiritual. It is true that you can become wealthy even without being connected to God. How many devil worshippers and idol worshippers do we know who are rich and wealthy? Because there are principles to wealth, and you must honor them. These principles were made by God, but it doesn't matter who apply them. Even when applied by demons, they are successful. If you apply them, you will be successful too. The important thing is that you must know them, you must recognize them, and you must appreciate them. The other thing, which I believe to be very key and very important, you might be spiritually well, intellectually well, physically well, socially and relationally, you're doing good, and even financially, you're well. But if you lead this life without a purpose and fulfillment, then it's just such a waste. We've seen people who have climbed the ladder in every aspect, aspect of their lives, but they die a hopeless life. They die unfulfilled. Why? Because there comes a time when your life is not about seeking for bread. It's not about looking for money. It's not about building relationships. It's about living a purpose, fulfilling a mandate. And this is a level that is not to be appreciated by everyone. This is a level that is not attained by everyone. There are many people who are actually able to get right all the other dimensions, but not in the dimension of fulfillment. And in fact, you don't have to be old, you don't have to be wealthy or rich for you to live a fulfilled life. We have seen teachers who live a very fulfilled life because they do what they love to do, what they believe they work hard to do. People who do whatever they do with excellence. Martin Luther King once said that if you're a street cleaner, you must clean it so well that many times, many years later, someone will come and say, many years ago, there lived a street sweeper who swept so well that everyone acknowledged that this man did his best. You cannot do your best if you're not doing what you ought to do, because we are all cut for a purpose, we are all cut for a reason. I am a complete supporter and a believer of the fact that we all have a reason. We are endowed, we are gifted. Our gifts are special, they are different, and for that reason we must exploit them to the fullest, giving our best, offering our best. And as we do that, we live a fulfilled life. And fulfillment has nothing to do with you as an individual. It has a lot to do with what you do for others. So develop yourself spiritually, do not forget intellectual. Develop yourself physically, do not forget relational. Develop yourself financially, acquire as much wealth as you can. But remember, you live for a reason and you must pursue that reason. I want to talk about each one of these aspects in a separate video. In the next video, I'll be talking about mental or intellectual development. So subscribe on this channel, and you learn a lot from these personal development lessons. I'm your teacher, Rock Peter. May God bless you so much.